Things that are cheaper in the Philippines than in the US. Stand by. Hey guys, it's Walking Man Walks back again with another video. I know I made a few videos about this, why I'm leaving the US and moving to Asia. So I'm going to retire in the Philippines early, and everybody asks me all the time, why the Philippines? Well, I know I made a video about why the Philippines, but one of the reasons I always give is the cost of living. So I'm going to go through 10 things that are cheaper in the Philippines in this video. So stand by. If you guys like my content, think about buying me a coffee. That little bit of money I get from that just goes towards a little more equipment. Subscribe, like, share. That helps me even more than the buy me a coffee. So if you want to do that, that'd be great. Comment, especially any of the 10 things I mentioned. Go ahead and comment on them if you think I'm wrong or if you disagree. Okay, let's get started. Now, these 10 are in no particular order. So let's start with number 1. And this is one of my favorite things about the Philippines, as silly as it might seem, is massages. I never get massages in the US. It's just a pain in the neck where I live. You have to go far. It's expensive. My health care doesn't cover it, I don't think. Even if they did, they probably wouldn't pay for that. You know, they probably pay partially or whatever. In the Philippines, I could go to the mall and they have a blind massage there, which they employ people who are blind as massage therapists. It's always you get a man if you're a man, you get a woman if you get a woman, because my girlfriend goes with me sometimes. She doesn't enjoy it as much, but every time we go to the mall, we split up and I go get an hour massage. Basically, it's 500 pesos for an hour massage with the tip. I think it's 400, and then I tip them 100 usually. So that's $10 for an hour massage. And some of those guys are strong. They do a good job. The first thing that's much cheaper in the Philippines is massages. So I know a lot of people don't like massages or whatever, but for me to have a healthy back and stay in shape and all the working out I do and walking man walks, all the working out I do and walking, I like to have a massage, you know, a couple times a month. A couple times a month in the US would come out to, you know, $500. A couple times a month in the Philippines comes out to $30. 3 times would be $30. So the first one is massages. Number 2 is rent. I think now in the US, most people's rent is upward of 30% of their income. You know, your whole life, you hear, you know, I took some business classes in college, and even in high school, you hear that if 30% of your income, 1/3 of your income, so 33.3% should be what it costs you for your housing, basically. And, you know, in my eyes, that should be the house, the utilities, you know, the water, the electricity, everything should be within that 33%. So I think most Americans are 50% or upward that are on the median income scale and down. I'm on the median income scale here, and I don't pay that, but I live very scarcely. You know, I'm a bachelor in the US. I basically live in my RV while I'm here half the year. And then I live in a nicer place, actually, in the Philippines when I go there, because I could rent a nice modern condo over there for $300-400 a month with, you know, all the amenities, a yard, stuff like that. A condo that here in Colorado would cost $3,000 to $4,000 a month. So like more than I take home in a month. So that's number 2 is rent. And I know I've mentioned that a lot, but it's a big deal. It's 1/3 to half to even 75% of some people's income in the US. Okay, number 3 is transportation, car service. I know everybody probably isn't cool with some of the ways they get around in the Philippines, like tricycle, or now it's legal to have motorcycle taxis. That's only happened in the last couple of years, I think, and it's mostly in Manila, but I'm seeing it spread out to the province as well, where you could call a motorcycle taxi on Grab or something, and there's a couple of different companies around now, and somebody will come pick you up on a motorcycle. I don't mind that much, but some other people might. That's basically the cheapest way, and I think tricycle's the next cheapest way. You know, the tricycles of the motorcycles you see with the little covered sidecar on them, you know, little 125 motorcycles or 150 if they have a bigger one. When I first started going to the Philippines, you could go anywhere in town for 10 pesos, you know, in a decent sized city. Now it's more like 20 or 30 pesos maybe, and that, you know, they always try and get me for a little more. That's what they call the skin tax. I know that sounds like a racist term, but you definitely have to be aware that when you're there, everybody's gonna try and upcharge you a little if you're white, because they automatically assume you're rich, right? My Filipino friends, go ahead and comment on that. I know you know what I'm talking about. I'm not being a racist, it's just what they call it there, the skin tax. But car services, motorcycles, tricycles, taxis, like sometimes in the province where I live, and this could be a little annoying, is like after 9 o'clock, if I come back from the airport and I end up in Loag City, which is even a decent sized city, after dark or after 8 or 9 o'clock, it's really hard. All the cabbies, they just quit, they just work the day shift. So if you don't catch them on that day shift, my house is, I think, 12 kilometers from Loag City, which is kind of a long ride in a tricycle, and 90% of tricycle drivers don't want to do that. It's farther than they normally go. They just like to stay in the city. That way you have to get on the highway for a couple miles. Although the cabs they're much cheaper than here, for me to go that 12 kilometers in a cab is, I think it's usually around $12. So that same 12 kilometers here in the US would be like $30 or $40 maybe, depending on where you are. In New York, it would be more. But anyway, car service is relatively cheap. In some places, it's not as available. It's more motorcycles and tricycles. And like I said, tricycles are not great for going distances. When I was in Boracay last year, they have electric tricycles now, which are really nice just for getting around the island. They don't blow out all that two-cycle motor smoke, and they're nice and clean and smooth driving. I'll try and post a picture of one of those here if I could find one. But so transportation is relatively cheap and easy to get. I didn't mention buses. Buses are super cheap. I could take a bus to the beach from where I live. It's like 60 or 70 kilometers for, I think it's maybe $4 or $5, something like that. It's not that much. So, or maybe it's $10. I could take a bus to the beach from where I live, 60 or 70 kilometers for like $10 or something. It's not bad. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4 is plane fare. Now, this is partly because, there's 7,000 islands in the Philippines, but like I was just looking at plane tickets for Christmas. We're going to Palawan, and I'll make a video there. All the Filipinos know what Palawan is, but for you foreigners or Americans or Australians, whoever else watches my channel, Palawan is one of the nicer islands that, tourists go to on vacation. And I or my girlfriend have never actually been there, so we're going to go there for Christmas this winter. But anyway, I was booking plane tickets for there, and one problem about where we live, it's like a 2-leg plane trip. You can't take a direct flight there, so 2 one-hour flights. But each flight is like $25 or less. So it's just cheap to fly there. They do get you on baggage on one of the airlines. They definitely get you for every extra bag you have. It's really nice to hop on a plane and be on a tropical island in an hour for $25 or $30. So plane fare is cheaper there. I know here in the US you can get deals with certain carriers for cheap flights like that to certain cities that are popular, but that's only certain deals that you find. This is just all the time in the Philippines. You just book a flight, and and there's also ferries to go to these islands. You could get an overnight ferry, but they're almost as much, or depending how far ahead you book, as much as the flight. So the overnight ferry would be, for me, it'd be more like an experience, which I've already had on an overnight ferry in Chile and other places. But just to experience the Philippines overnight ferry, I might do that one time. Anyway, so plane fare is cheap there. You can fly around to different islands. It's really nice. Clothing. I used to bring a bunch of clothing to the Philippines when I went there. Now I bring almost nothing. First of all, I'm not going to wear sweatshirts like this. Hoodies, I bring a hoodie every time for the flight, and I never wear it again the whole time I'm there. Maybe once if I'm riding the motorcycle early in the morning or late at night. Even then, it's usually I just put on like a long sleeve, like fishing type shirt, just for the wind. But clothing there, so I don't bring clothing because t-shirts in the market where I live, and tank tops and shorts and everything else, range from $1 to $3 for, like a an NBA jersey, or I mean, it's not a real NBA jersey, but you know, that type of material kind of jersey. So clothes are super cheap. The only thing is you have to buy larger. Like here, I'm a medium large. There, I'm a large, extra large. You know, depending on the cut of the shirt. But clothing, super cheap there. You know, of course, you go to the mall and spend, you know, more on clothing. You know, the H&M is a popular store there, where you go in there and, you know, buy $10, $15, $20 t-shirts just like you can in any store. It's going to be cheaper than the malls in the US, but it's definitely more than just going to the market and buying from some local vendor in the Philippines. So clothes is super cheap. Just let me make the caveat. I had a friend when I was young that was a Texas Aggie, but real smart guy. He would always say to me whenever I said something was cheap, he would say, not cheap, inexpensive. Cheap implies that it's made poorly, which could or could be in some of these examples. Okay, another thing that's cheap to buy, or cheaper than the US to buy there, is Asian vehicles, Toyotas, Hondas, which I've always loved those cars. I've had both. For obvious reasons, they're much cheaper to buy there than they are here. New, used, whatever. The funny thing is, American vehicles there are more expensive than they are here because they're imported from much farther away, I guess. Maybe we have some, I don't think we have any factories in China, but I think there might be some car factories in Asia somewhere where the US makes cars closer to there. But in general, Asian made cars, there's especially cheap Chinese electric cars coming into the country now. But like Suzuki's, I was looking into buying a vehicle there. You could buy a, you know, it's a tiny little Suzuki van. I can't remember what they call it, but it's a cool van. You get it with racks, all-wheel drive, a nice interior, brand new for about $7,000 US. I don't think there's any car in the whole United States you could buy for $7,000 US, brand new. Yeah, Japanese cars, Chinese cars, Korean cars are definitely cheaper there than here. Again, Filipinos, go ahead and comment. I don't know how you feel about that. Like, I haven't bought a car. This is just by me looking around. I know also car insurance is much cheaper than it is in the US. But you guys go ahead and comment. I'd like to hear your feedback on that one. Okay, that was number 6. That was number 6. Number 7 is seafood. And this might be obvious because me and my girlfriend were just talking the other night. She was watching a show about king crab. And she told me how much king crab is in the Philippines. And I couldn't believe it because seafood in the Philippines is normally very inexpensive. I mean, I paid for an expensive crab dinner on her birthday in Boracay, but that's a, you know, a real tourist area. And even then we got, you know, loads of crab and food. And I don't love crab or shellfish, but she does. That's why we went there. But we got loads of it for, you know, around $60, which I don't know. I haven't gone out to seafood in the US in a long time, but I'm sure for 2 people to get all that shellfish and stuff like that, crab, it would be more than $60. But that's expensive. You know, if we go to the market in town and just get shrimp, you know, it's 150 pesos per kilo, $3-4 per kilo of shrimp. I get tuna fresh out of the ocean there for $306 per kilo. It's night and day. The seafood there is, first of all, it's fresh out of the ocean. A lot of the times you get the fish and it's still alive. You know, it was caught that morning. Shrimp as well. You know, it's just fresher and cheaper there. So seafood is superior. Now, at restaurants, it's cooked different than in the US. If you go to a seafood restaurant in the Philippines and you get like a seafood mixed platter, everything's going to be shelled. You got to break everything out of its shell. It's not like in the US where it comes all nice and shelled and everything for you. Especially shrimp. I know Americans used to having their shrimp shelled for them, but you know, you have to take the shell off your shrimp yourself in the Philippines at most restaurants. But I prefer to just buy, I don't like shrimp that much either, but my girlfriend loves it. But I prefer to just buy shrimp and cook it at home. Well, I don't cook it, but my girlfriend does. She's really good at cooking shrimp. I could boil shrimp, obviously, but she makes a bunch of different dishes with it. But I love the tuna. I buy the tuna whenever they have it and throw it on the barbecue. It's great. I've even eaten it raw just to try it, and that's really good too. Okay, so seafood is number 7. Number 8, cheaper thing in the Philippines is any kind of repair. I mean, on your car, your house, whatever. Services and labor in the Philippines are extremely inexpensive. I've talked about this before with getting my motorcycle repaired. But if you need a house repair, anything, it's super inexpensive. I mean, it might take them a little longer to do it sometimes, and I really don't even think that's the case most of the time. I've heard people say that it takes 2 or 3 people to get done in the Philippines, but it takes 1 American to get done. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Filipinos, again, I heard that from a Filipino, so go ahead and comment. Let me know what you think about that comment. I think Filipinos are really hard workers, and more Americans I know are lazy, but who am I? Anyway, go ahead and comment on that. So number 8, any kind of repairs, it's going to be cheaper there. Number 9, and this is a funny one because this is just from my personal experience, air conditioners, especially split units, what they call heat pumps that you get heat and air conditioning out of. I bought one in the Philippines last year, and I just kind of out of curiosity looked how much they cost here, and like the heat pump I had installed in my place is 3 or 4 times as much as it costs here. Now, maybe I don't understand heat pumps or air conditioners. Let's just call it an air conditioner. It's just a split unit. So I don't know why heat pumps cost so much more in the U.S. I mean, for the one, I paid about $400 for in the Philippines. In the U.S., it's about $2,000 installed, and that was $400 installed in the Philippines. So maybe some of my American listeners or Filipino listeners could comment. Maybe you know more about heat pumps than me. I don't know if it's just a difference in the labor cost, but I know my sister did our house with all heat pumps in every room, and it was $20,000 or $30,000. So it's such a big difference. So go ahead and comment about that. And last but not least, number 10 is utilities. So to run that heat pump 12 hours a day, it costs $30 to $50, depending on the season it is, per month. That's the whole electricity bill, $30 to $50. And then depending on where you are, water could be $8 to $10 a month. And then Wi-Fi is, what is Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi is about $20 a month for unlimited. It's not the fastest. It's about 20 megabytes per second. They do have Starlink available there, which would be cheaper than here, actually, the monthly subscription in the Philippines. But it's substantially more than what I pay now. I might switch to it anyway. So utilities is cheaper there. So that's my list of 10 for now. If I think of more, if you guys think of more, go ahead and comment below. Comment about anything I said. Please don't comment about the way I look. I'm just kidding. Some people like to comment about the way I look. If it's a good comment, okay. If it's a bad comment about my teeth or something, then just keep it to yourself. Thanks. Okay, I'll see you again next time. Walking Man Walks out.